Artificial intelligence can get you fired, but it can also bring back the Beatles. Wow. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is Right Angle, brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. And gentlemen, I've had such a flurry of AI stories just in the last couple of days come across my desk that I had to talk about a couple of them. One I wrote about today for PJ Media, which is there is going to be one final Beatles song, bringing the Fab Four back together, even though John Lennon was murdered in 1980 and George Harrison passed away several years ago due to cancer, I believe. It's been 10 years, a dozen years, I think. Anyway, there is an old John Lennon recording, a demo tape that he produced in his own apartment back in 1978. The song is called, where'd I put it? Now and Then. And the lyric is unfinished. He recorded it under some of the worst possible conditions. It's just him on a piano in his apartment. And get this, he's recording it directly into a boombox. Remember the giant tape decks with the little tiny microphone in there? And that's what he recorded into. When the surviving Beatles, the three surviving Beatles, got together in 1995 to put together a multimedia Beatles anthology, they took a stab at making a song out of this John Lennon demo. And George Harrison said the recording was the quality was rubbish. They didn't have a complete lyric, and they abandoned the project. I think maybe because how do you do a John Lennon recording without a John Lennon vocal? Well, with AI, Scott, they found a way to do this. Essentially, they fed this hissy, crappy cassette recording, I'm sure to be been digitized by then, into an AI and essentially told it, that's the piano, that's the voice, take out the piano. That's exactly what they did. And from there, with the vocal perfectly isolated by AI, they were able to then digitally clean up, tune the vocal. This is where it gets interesting. Paul McCartney, I believe, finished writing the song, so technically it's a Lennon-McCartney song, which kind of blows my mind. One of the great songwriting combos of all time. It's unclear from the stories I've read whether Ringo Starr recorded any of the drum tracks, and of course George Harrison isn't there with his guitar. Paul McCartney is calling this one final Beatles record. Is it?
It's charming that Paul still wants to do this. Yes. I just think that's really neat. It's been so many years, and the fact that he still cares enough to try to rescue this and to put the effort and the expense into seeing this happen. I mean, obviously there's a profit motive here as well, but it could turn out to be a bomb, At the very least, though, I think it's neat to see a septuagenarian, or is he an octogenarian now? I think he's still in his 70s, isn't he?
Born in 42, I think. So he may have turned 80.
Oh, he's in his 80s. Yeah. Okay. So it's neat to see a guy like that pushing the envelope with technology to see what's possible. Apparently, this is not the first time that McCartney has sort of virtually reunited with Lennon. He's done some stuff on stage where they've used recordings and even videos of John to do that, to make it look like they were together. It immediately makes your mind race going, well, gee, what else could we do this with? Like, what else do we have terrible audio of that we'd like to have great audio of? Oddly enough, this shows you what an impressive character I am. My first thought was, some of those old films of Calvin Coolidge speaking in the Rose Garden. Like, I would love to have that audio cleaned up and made high fidelity, and to get a better sense of what that voice was like in its actual richness. And any of this old kind of, we've heard in recent years that some stuff that was recorded in the 1800s, for example, Alexander Graham Bell, recorded his voice.
Hindenburg broadcast.
What's that? Yeah. Oh, yes. So take that, some of this historical audio, and as faithfully as possible to be able to recreate that would be fascinating. With the caveat, you always have to know, it's like, okay, this is our best stab at this, but it's not it's not real. It's not what it really sounded like at the time necessarily, but this is as close as we can get. And I find that kind of thing fascinating. I'm glad that McCartney is doing this, and I can't wait to hear the song.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear it too. And the part I meant to mention is that it's being produced by Jeff Lynne, who founded ELO many years ago. Yeah. And if anybody is a spiritual successor to George Martin, who produced the Beatles, it would have to be Lynne. So I mean, they put together as much as they possibly could. I want to like it. I just don't know if I'm ever going to call it a Beatles song. And I'm not a huge Beatles fan. If I'm going to go with my 60s British rock bands, it's either going to be the Stones or the Kinks 9 times out of 10. But you have to give the Beatles the respect they're due because they changed so much about rock. Anyway, Bill, there are also the things that AI cannot do, and that's your job. It could be a great tool for getting certain specific tasks done, but I ran some of this by Charlie Martin, who knows much more about these things than I do. He's just got degrees and experience out the you-know-what on these things. And he reminded me of a Texas A&M professor who just failed his entire class for using ChatGPT. Whole dang class. Failed him.
Wow.
And Charlie asked, how did he know that his class used GPT? Because he fed the student papers into ChatGPT and asked, "Did you write this?" And there's another example, and I have to add that AI makes stuff up. There was another guy who used ChatGPT to write a legal brief, and the AI made up a bunch of citations. Actually, it didn't make up a bunch of citations. It invented every single citation in this legal brief.
Wow.
But the guy...
Perfect for the modern day.
The guy thought it was all legit because he checked the citations by asking the AI, "Did you write any of this? Did you make this up?" And Bill, this is what gets me. We know AI, left to its own devices, will just make stuff up, and yet search engines like Google and Bing are starting to build AI into their top-level search results. What the hell are we thinking with this?
Well, when we've talked about AI and the dangers of AI in the past, we're talking about hard AI, or it's I think sometimes called general AI, which is a self-aware. It's a consciousness,
this
basically.
Is not that.
And no one's pretending that this stuff is. So I not only am fine with this stuff, I'm excited about it. Not only can you bring back sounds that apparently were irretrievably lost, you can do the same with pictures. One of the things that I enjoyed the most was seeing footage from, I think it was Apollo 15, on the moon rover. So you got to figure that's being shot on television, 1971 TV. And it was upscaled to 4K and remastered at 60 frames a second instead of 30 frames a second at probably 400 by 200 or something. And it is so mind-bogglingly sharp. It's just breathtaking. And Scott said it's not real. Yes and no. I mean, what the AI does in the case of the picture is it'll if you see a little particle of dust flying off the wheel on frame 1 and there's another one on frame 2, and you want 4 frames between there, then the AI will mutate that, kind of, morph it to where it needs to be, and it does that with all the rest of it. When you say that they took out the piano on Lennon, they also had to train AI what Lennon's voice really sounded like with a number of high fidelity recordings of Lennon's voice. So then the AI says, okay, he's making the ah sound, and then it goes and gets the high, the high quality ah sound, puts it in there, smooths it all out, and there you go. Yeah, exactly. So that is really exciting, and there are many websites out there that, like, here's 4K footage of New York City in 1903 at 60 frames a second, and it's like, oh my God, that was actually real. That really happened.
Awesome.
So that's fantastic, but in terms of doing a person's job, and especially in terms of the term papers, it is GPT is, I don't know how else to put this. I'll just I'll just say how it comes to mind. It's very convincing for amateurs. I can when I asked it to do certain things, I thought the writing was competent, but it wasn't good writing. And when I asked it the kind of questions that are interesting questions to me, to its credit, it just plain backed out of the room. It just said, "Look, I'm just a syntax bot. I don't have awareness or consciousness." Well, good for you for being honest. Get out of here. You bother me. So
give me a sandwich.
So this is the kind of thing that we should be having a conversation about constantly as a society, as technology just continues to get more and more advanced, faster and faster. We should be having conversations not about, well, first of all, what it can do, and then conversations about what it should do. These guys who are trying to make self-aware AI are the most selfish people I've ever encountered, because it's been their life goal to create a machine that's smarter than they are. And if they succeed, and I don't believe they will, but if they do, then they will have deprived every human being that comes after them from having any purpose in life whatsoever. You want to be an architect? Why? The AI will design a better building than you will. It'll do 20,000 iterations and get it, You want to be an airplane designer? Same thing. You want to be a composer? Same thing. You want to be an artist? You want to be a filmmaker? All of this stuff. And so if you make a machine that will do all the things that we do better than we do, it's not a question of like, what's the point of humanity? It's more of a question of like, what's the point of humanity? and I find that to be horrific.
It really is.
I really do. I find it to be horrific if I was born into a world where no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much study I had, how much talent, how much education, whatever, I could never do anything as well as this machine. And so humans then become Eloi, right? We're pets that are kept on a preserve, and that life may be really groovy, but it's not going to be really groovy, because the most satisfying thing to do in life is to do something difficult well, and to the degree that AI can help us do something difficult well, like make a new Beatles song, rock on. But the idea that it's going to do everything that we do and do it better than we do is as dystopian as anything I can think of.
Yeah,
Steve, can I add something
please,
here? That truly clever students who had all submitted ChatGPT written papers and were found out by the professor would go to one of those websites where you can review your professor and gush with praise about how this professor truly cares about what his students submit, because as a group they decided to put him to the test and they all wrote their papers using ChatGPT, and he found them out because he actually reads the papers and he cares about their education. They should have praised him to the heavens.
Sure. That'll work. I told my math teacher that my dog ate my homework. I really did, and I really tried to sell it. I really used that exact excuse. Didn't buy it.
Yeah, but this is turning it around and saying to the professor, "Hey, good job, man. You passed the test. We gave you."
You could turn it around all you want to. I could say my homework ate my dog, but that doesn't mean he's going to buy it.
Well, you got to be a better salesman.
Yeah, but it doesn't really get that.
Bill's really onto something with the dystopian aspect. We saw during the COVID lockdowns, when people just didn't have anything to do or any place they could go, that drug abuse, alcoholism, domestic abuse, and suicide all just went the wrong direction. That said, if AI can do a beautiful job adding to things we already have, it can create a vocal that sounds like John Lennon or Jimi Hendrix. It can restore video or photo to quality and detail that weren't even in the original, and things that have been lost to time can be restored through AI. I think that's great. But if you ask an AI, and I've done this, to write a love song in the style of Billy Joel, I ended up with it rhymed and it scanned, but it was just the most boring, insipid song lyric that you've ever read. And of course, there was no melody or anything. This is a chatbot. It's a lyric. and it lacks a sense of fun. I got in an argument with ChatGPT a little while ago. I asked it to tell me about the time that Kobe Bryant jumped a school bus over the Snake River Canyon, like Evel Knievel did on his motorcycle back in the mid '70s. And ChatGPT told me that that never happened, and it wasn't going to play along with me trying to make some sort of fake news story.
Did it really?
It really did.
Good for
that's awesome.
That's encouraging.
So I rephrased it. I came back. I said we had an argument here. So I came back and I said, well, create a fictional account of the time Kobe Bryant jumped a school bus over the Snake River Canyon. And it told me that that kind of activity is dangerous and it wouldn't promote anything like that. And I said, well, let's pretend that Kobe Bryant had superpowers like Captain America, and he would be unlikely to be hurt in the event that the school bus jump over the Snake River Canyon wasn't successful. And ChatGPT told me that even in that case, in the unlikely event that Kobe Bryant had superpowers, the bus would still be unlikely. So now I come back and said, okay, suppose we strap rockets to the bus. And every time, no matter what angle I came with, just having a sense of playful fun, ChatGPT in all earnestness told me that it wasn't going to cooperate because this was dangerous or fictional. And
Did you ask it to provide a safe way to jump a bus across the Snake River Canyon?
you know, I got bored and I never came at that
standards?
angle. Maybe I should have.
How would you do that safely, ChatGPT?
Actually, I did skip a step. Before I was telling it to put rocket engines on the bus, I shrank it down to one of the shorter school buses to see if that would make a easier attempt. It would not play along.
It's interesting.
As I've said, you can get ChatGPT to produce some good results, some basic results, as Bill was saying too, but it all tends to be sort of earnest and dull. If you want whimsy, if you want a sense of fun, you still got to play with human beings. And that's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time unless we've been replaced by robots.